Hey Fortnite fans, in honor of Fortnite OG in-game and the fact we've just finished the Season 5 week, I thought we'd dip into the archive and pull out all the Season 5 related characters that I've got. And while you might look at this and think, oh my goodness, this is a big pile, a mess of action figures, you'd partially be right because, believe it or not, we are one tap, movement, vibration away from disaster here. These things are piled so thick that one wrong move and they're all going over. So we're going to see if we can survive this video without them going over. So what we have here is a variety of action figures, or in the case of these things, little statues from different companies. Right up here in the front, we've got little action figures, if you call them that, statues from Moose Toys way back a few years. We've got a Good Smile action figure over here. We have a Jazzwares 2.5-inch figure here. We've got the Jazzwares 4-inch series represented right here. And right here through the middle, including Valkyrie, who, yes, is in fact having to be propped up by my background because that figure just won't stand, is the 6-inch Legendary series from Jazzwares. And these three figures across the back, who you might barely be able to see, Ragnarok and two wild cards, are the 7-inch McFarlane action figures. Now, there are a few more out there. There are some 12-inch figures from Jazzwares, which, as you can see, I'm kind of tight for space here, so to bring in some 12-inch figures, that's just not happening. There are also Funko Pops that I did not want to bring into this mess, as well as there are some 2-inch Moose figures and 1 or 2 McFarlane figures that I just don't own yet. So let's take a little bit closer look at some of these figures and some of these companies and see what has been released that's based out of Season 5 of Fortnite. We begin with the 2-inch Moose Toys action figures. Well, as I said earlier, can you really consider these action figures? These are more like little statues. Maybe they have a few points of articulation here or there. Some of them differ. They have a rotation at the shoulder and a rotation at the waist, and maybe, if you're lucky, a rotation at the neck. And not even all of them have, like Drift here has a rotation at the neck, but nothing at the waist. The wild cards don't have a waist rotation, but yeah, this Drift also has a neck rotation. Now, it's kind of interesting that these were made because I'm not sure if they were designed to be played with or just posed, because maybe they're playable, but the posing, at least to me, are a bit prohibited. You can't, it means, I'm not saying the right word, but you can't play with them very easily, I wouldn't think. But maybe if you're a really small kid, it doesn't really matter. But a few of these posing things do cause a problem. When you get to Suntan Specialist back here, we'll bring him a little closer. This poor guy, I mean, he's got a problem. You see that? His arms are raised, and if my camera would actually get into focus, yeah, there you go. And so if you put anything on his back, you see he has got a hole back here for either a back bling or his harvesting tool. When you put him down, he falls over. I can barely get him to stand this way, and that's with his arms leaned up to the front. He's usually like this because he comes with a glider, and so he's designed to glide down to, your play island. Or you get over here and poor Musha, if we can get this guy to stand, poor Musha is in a stance where if you want to have him off of this, he's not going to stand. He can't stand at all. You've got to peg him on this figure stand. And so that makes it, to me, like a little statue, which is disappointing. The back blings come off, and you can attach some of the weapons or the pickaxes. And then we have the Ace over here, who, see, there we go, Suntan Specialist, down. And then we got a figure kind of like the Ace, who, interestingly, she comes with, I'm not really sure what kind of a figure stand. It's like an air figure stand, so I'm not sure if it's for dropping poses or what, because it just looks like, I don't know, she's floating in the air. And if you take her off this thing, again, she can't stand. Her one foot's up. Doesn't matter what way you lean her, she can't stand. And of course, when she falls, and it looks like she also drops her hand cannon, we'll say, which is appropriate because hand cannon at least was in the game. So, I don't really kind of get some of the ideas behind this line, because even some of the figures don't stand. Yeah, suntans. Oh, it's because I rotated the arms. Let's move him forward. Balance him up just a little bit. Look at that, and we get him to stand. Otherwise, we've got a couple wild card characters. We got a later level Drift, the basic level. We have a triage trooper with grenade launcher down here. Got Overtaker, Ragnarok. You're going to see some common themes through all this. And finally, I think this is Backbone. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because there's a few of these I don't remember. Oh yeah, and then there's Mullet Marauder. So that's really interesting. Let's do a quick comparison, and we'll bring in the Jazzwares 2.5-inch Micro Legendary Series. I think it was Micro Legendary Series. And this is such a different figure. Another theme you're going to hear or see in this video, there's a lot of beef bosses. I think Beef Boss, except for Hasbro, was made by every single company in every single scale. But the difference with Beef Boss here is you got articulated shoulders and arms and knees and waist and head. I mean, he's really small. Probably if you stood up, let's bring out Mullet Marauder. Yeah, no, so you can see the difference in height there between these two. Yep, and he lost that. But I would much prefer these guys from Jazzwares over these Moose figures because you can do something. You can kind of pose them. Now, it's still disappointing. The way Jazzwares made these guys, you can't bring the arms together so that you can hold on to something like a grenade launcher or another two-handed gun. And then let's go and take another peek here. Not another peek. I'm going to scoot these guys off. But another very small company. Not small company, really, but small produce. Let's switch these guys around. And you'll notice this theme of Beef Boss. So here is Good Smile Company. And they're about 4-inch figures. If I bring in a 4-inch figure and stand right next to it on this stand here. I mean, that's close. It's just under, maybe 3.75 inch or so. But you got a Beef Boss, and I like these. I like these a lot. These little Nendroids are awesome. They come with this base, and they have this little stand you can plug into the lower back. You can still put a back bling on these figures, but these heads are giant and oversized. They rotate, and they go back and forth. Gotta be careful with this guy. When I first bought him, the neck snapped on me. The back bling fell off because it's kind of a tight fit back there. But with this figure stand, you can reposition this thing in so many different places, and you can do so many different things. He comes with a lot of things, especially a bunch of hands. Now, I have been able to get these figures balanced quite right, just right, to stand all on their own. And I think they are really cool. I don't know why. It's just these things, I like them. I like these Nendroids a lot, and I think they're pretty awesome. So here's Beef Boss, Item Shop Season 5. And while we're at it, let's bring in Jazzwares 4-inch figure, and you can have 3 Beef Bosses right here next to each other. I know there's some Beef Boss lovers out there, so enjoy this. Now, I'll just bring him in temporarily. There was a Moose toy Beef Boss. I just don't have it yet. So it's made in, McFarlane didn't make one. So Hasbro and McFarlane didn't make it. So there are 2 things that Beef Boss was not made in. But then you have the Fortnite, or the Jazzwares 4-inch figures. We'll move these guys off and bring in some of these. Let's clear this stuff off. So here's Triage Trooper, and this was from way early, Wave 2, Wave 3? Really early. We got Drift. I'm going to knock some stuff over here. Drift from Wave 1. And these are just really awesome figures. Of all the figures, and Ragnarok was from Series 1. Of all the figures here, by far my favorite are these 4-inch action figures from Jazzwares. Let's finish this up here. Because the articulation's great. They make me think of G.I. Joe type figures, and I'm a huge 118 collector. Now, even separately, we're one step away from complete destruction of knocking figures over. But yeah, these are my favorites. Just if we can get them to stand here. So it was really cool. We got a high stakes squad mode that consisted of, let's swap these guys, all 4 of the wild cards. I didn't think we'd actually get all 4 wild cards in one pack, and I thought that was really cool because they came with various back bling and weapons and a couple harvesting tools, as you can see. And there's a couple of these guys who don't like to stand up. And you know, while I really don't like the look of Triage Trooper front and center here, it was a really cool figure that I was really thinking would be awesome. His skin tone, oh my goodness. Do you have fun standing your figures up and knocking them over? That is one of the problems with at least a lot of early Jazzwares figures, is the feet and the ankle area, sometimes the knee, makes it really difficult to stand these figures up. But no, look at his skin tone. He is a pale character. And I was really excited when I saw the card art for this figure. I was a little disappointed. He kind of looks, I don't know, he looks a little odd to me, especially when you stand him, like, say, next to a wild card. The proportions are a little bit weird, I think. Maybe it's just because he's so bulky up in this chest area. Then we got Ragnarok. There's almost another theme that you're going to see. Just about everyone released a Ragnarok, from Moose Toys to 4-inch Jazzwares, 6-inch Jazzwares, McFarlane. That's about it, I guess. No Hasbro, no 12-inch figure. But this is just a really cool figure, and it's based on an even cooler skin, and I'm really excited about the Omega Rock that we're getting in-game right now, and I hope that will be a figure someday. A figure that, a character I didn't know a whole lot about was Overtaker, and let's just knock the rest of them over while we're at it, right? But this was a pretty cool figure. I like this. I didn't realize he was a racing character until sometime later after I got him. And I kept calling him, what was it, Undertaker or Overrider or something. I can't remember. I was misnaming him quite often. But Overtaker I thought was pretty cool. And he came with a llama that, as far as I know, he can do the splits. As far as I know, only ever came out in a llama. And then finally, we've got Archetype here, who's another character I didn't know anything about until the figure released. And I looked at him and I was like, oh my goodness, this guy is kind of weird. Look at that, like, face, the goggles. I don't know, he's got some weird stuff going on here. All right, so let's move on to some larger action figures. So I'm going to reset everything. Next, we have the 6-inch Legendary series from Jazzwares, and I have a love-hate relationship with this action figure line. A lot of things from them are really cool, and I do mean really cool. Hey, look who it is. It's the Beef Boss himself. We'll just stand him over here. There's one figure that I had originally that I'm not going to put out here just yet because, honestly, she falls over, and I don't think I've ever gotten her to stand. So actually, no, I could fit her in here. Just scoot these guys over here a little bit and set her right there. Beef Boss is another one that has difficulties standing. So, love-hate relationship with this action figure line. And that is, well, let's take Beef Boss. He volunteered himself. So when he fell over, do you see how easy the harvesting tool fell out of his hand? That's because, let's see, can you see the hand really well? That's because of something called hinge fingers. This line had articulated fingers. And at first I thought, well, that would be a really cool thing. That's something new I haven't seen. Now, one of the reasons I have a love-hate relationship, I love this line because it was the very first 6-inch line I ever got. I hate this line, and I really don't hate the line, but I dislike some things about it, and that is the hinge fingers. Very rarely can you actually get characters to really clamp down and hold on to their accessories. If you see some accessories that are in these hands right now, these are the lucky ones. But look at this. Let's take Enforcer over here for an example. If I start wiggling him around a little bit, he can't hold on to that harvesting tool. This figure is now, how old is this figure? Was he out in 2019? So he's about 4 years old. And if I move this around too much, he will actually lose grip on this. And this isn't really to bash Jazzwares or bash this line. I'm just kind of talking about this is to showcase the characters. So here we have Enforcer, and I thought this was pretty cool. I like him a little bit. And look at that, we have a Ragnarok. Now, this was a pretty unique figure in this line, in that we're going to reveal some stuff here. In that, you could, yeah, look at that. He's got no face. But you could take off bits and pieces of his armor, and you could put him at different levels. Because in-game, I'm talking and doing this at the same time. In-game, you have different levels for Ragnarok. And I don't have his face, so we're going to have to keep him faceless. But it's kind of cool how they did the armor system, and you could upgrade. This was called a max level figure. And just for the sake of weirdness, we're going to put this head back on because I didn't bring a face to the party. But you could change him and add things and remove things. It was really cool. I really liked it. And the reason he's got no face on, he's designed to have a face on. I just find it a lot easier to put this head on without the faceplate. But I think this is a really awesome figure, and the gimmick I think was really pretty cool. Then we get to Wildcard, and I'm kind of disappointed, but I understand 6-inch figures, you can't release a 4-pack. They only made one Wildcard, just one. And he came with 4 faceplates, all 4 of the Wildcard faceplates. So you could pop off the face, switch them out, and you'd have a different one. So all you'd have to do is buy 4 of these guys. Well, I only ever found one, because by the time I realized that the styles could be unique characters, so to speak, I couldn't find them in stores anymore because I was a little late to the 6-inch party. I was drugs kicking and screaming, so to speak, into this 6-inch line. But it was my first. Now, this figure is really awesome. She is really cool. Well, there you go. She can't hold that very well, and she certainly can't stand, and it's very difficult to get her to balance. And mine was lucky enough to come with an upside down kneecap. If you can see in all of its blurriness, an upside down kneecap, I believe that this is the correct way. Another thing that plagued the Valkyrie figure is that you could find one without a face. Most of them were found without a face. But it took a little while. I've had this held on for years now, and it seems to have finally stuck in there, so it doesn't fall out very easily. But trying to get this figure, this really awesome looking figure, to balance is... You've all witnessed a miracle. You have all been witness to a miracle. We got her to stand. Let's adjust this, and no. Okay, let's put this back crooked. No way! I'm not doing this on purpose, I swear. No way! Apparently she stands really well with... Oh, you can't even see it. With crooked wings. Once I made the wings crooked, she was standing. That's hilarious. Sorry, I'm just having a lot of fun here. But I love this figure. I just wish it actually stood and held items. So she's usually in the back up against my wall. And then we get the Galaxy. And, you know, for everyone who wants a Galaxy and can't get a Galaxy, this is your next best shot. Because this figure, or this character, is not offered anymore. You had to log in, from what I understand, to a Samsung Galaxy device into Fortnite on that device, and then you'd get this skin. But it was really cool. It has bits and pieces through here and over here that are translucent, and I just think he looks really slick. I think he looks good. He just can't hold his pickaxe worth the darn, because originally I had a pickaxe in his hand and it opened up. And I have a bad feeling over time, as time goes on, these joints are just going to get looser. And finally, we'll take a little bit closer look here at the Beef Boss. Make all you Beef Boss fans really happy. I like this figure, but again, he is so difficult to stand. You almost need to make sure he doesn't have his back bling on to get him to stand. because he's really difficult to stand, and some of these figures are difficult to stand with their accessories. But I mean, he's fine. I'm a Tomato Head fan, but I like everyone. I like all the characters, so I think he's pretty cool. So let's bring in, let's get rid of all these accessories that I just messed up on. We're gonna put Wildcard front and center. Front and center, Wildcard. We're gonna try and get Beef Boss to stand here. Let's bring in McFarlane's Wildcard right there. And now you can see really and truly what the height difference is between the 6-inch Jazzwares figures and the 7-inch McFarlane figures. So, come on, dude, stand. That's a Jazzwares figure right there. If you find a Fortnite figure that can't stand, then most likely there's a strong possibility it was made by Jazzwares. That's really not a knock on the company, but really, they did have problems. They really did. And if we ignore those problems, anyway. But yeah, there's the height, the difference right there. And we'll scoot these guys off to the side because we don't need to see them anymore, because we are now moving into McFarlane territory. I'll keep Ragnarok here for now, because the only 4 figures to be released by McFarlane is the black wild card and the red wild card, Ragnarok, and Overtaker. I don't have Overtaker. I haven't been able to get that figure yet. Stand, Regs. I call him Regs sometimes. And he also dropped his gun, so I'll set it right there. So now you can see this height difference. So many times I can say that word. I'll set him back here. It's time to take a look at Ragnarok. There's a much greater height difference. Now, one thing I'll point out to you, and I don't have my knife pointers here, is that the McFarlane transparent blue or translucent blue is so much darker and richer than the Jazzwares. It's a much lighter blue. But I really, really like this. Now, McFarlane figures are an acquired taste. I would say that if you don't buy McFarlane action figures on any kind of a regular basis, and you've never touched them before, you're going to be in for an interesting treat. These are different type of figures. Are they bad figures? Not necessarily, but the joints are a little bit different. They pose a little bit different, and sometimes they even feel a little bit different. They have some of the weirdest leg articulation that I've seen on an action figure. They're very, if you can see here, they're very squared off. And I think that's so you see less of that joint compared to like this kind of open roundish area. Just throwing stuff around. They move around pretty well. There's no thigh articulation and no boot cut. And they kind of look a little blocky here and there. But they are pretty neat. They're not going to be a toy. The McFarlane figures are definitely not action figures you get down on the floor with your kids and you play with. You gotta get them to stand again. These are posing action figures. These are for your shelf. These are for a display. Pose them and dust them and let them be. But I think of all of them, Ragnarok is my favorite of Season 5 characters. This guy is just so cool. Take this cape off here. And look at the detail on this figure. This has got to be one of my favorite McFarlane figures right here. And even the butterfly joints are kind of interesting. These aren't actually butterfly. There's a separate piece. But the butterfly joints are interesting. You get him to bring his arms really far back. And there you have it, the McFarlane 7-inch action figures. And here we have one final look of all these action figures stacked up, reset up the way they were. And just a quick little secret, I didn't actually reset them all up. I filmed this before I filmed the main part of the video because I didn't want to try and do this again. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.